Let's deconstruct what happened for a moment, starting with the 1980s. Now, before President Reagan, banks were basically private partnerships. Let's take a look.
Excuse me, investment banks.
Investment banks were for the most part, private partnerships. Let's take a look at how things started to change, and here's a clip from the documentary.
In the 1980s, the financial industry exploded. The investment banks went public, giving them huge amounts of stockholder money. People on Wall Street started getting rich.
I had a friend who was a bond trader at Merrill Lynch in the 1970s. He had a job as a train conductor at night because he had 3 kids and couldn't support them on what a bond trader made. By 1986, he was making millions of dollars and thought it was because he was smart.
So what happened? How did things change and why?
Well, the deregulation of the financial system began in the early 1980s in the Reagan administration. And as the financial system deregulated, it also consolidated, and it became dominated by a relatively small number of financial conglomerates and investment banks, and it started making enormous amounts of money. And it also started causing financial crises for the first time since the Depression. The first one was in the late 1980s, the S&L scandals, which cost the American taxpayer about $150 billion, also cost many people their savings. At the time, that was thought to be a gigantic amount of money. Now, this is the third wave. The most recent crisis is the third wave of financial crises since deregulation began. And this one has cost us several $1 trillion and counting.
And what was the political or economic impetus of deregulation in the early 80s?
Well, it came from...
I mean, it's a sort of a political philosophy.
Political and economic philosophy, yes. Part of this did come from the economics discipline, and part of it came from people who sincerely believed that deregulated, completely free markets were in fact optimal. There was some sincere belief about that, mistaken but sincere. There was also, however, a very significant dose of corruption. One thing that the film goes into that's not widely known is that over the past 30 years, Wall Street has penetrated and co-opted and corrupted academia and the economics discipline.